Alright, so it's time for keeping up with the reggae boys. I have a few things to touch on, bro. We have a few bases to cover. The first place I want to start, though, and his name has been out of the news for a while, and I don't really love that. And it's Shamar Nicholson. Shamar Nicholson. The season started slow for him, but he's back in training. He's back in, I think they're in the Middle East right now or somewhere, doing mid-season training to restart the season. But the season started a bit slow for him, playing 17 games, 10 starts, 4 goals, 1 assist.
One
Is it
brawl.
slowing down for Shaman Nicholson, and how do you feel about his time in Russia this season?
You forgot a major stat, one brawl. That's important.
And I lie. Bring a red card in there.
One brawl, that's a big part of his statistics this season because unfortunately that was one of the, standout moments in his season, which is indicative of how average his season have gone thus far. I think Trevor Nicholson is being battled with off the field stuff. He's experienced a lot of racism and a lot of that stuff that comes with black players playing in Eastern Asia. So I think he's probably coping with that. The weather, the war in Ukraine, so on and so forth. There are many factors that would affect Shamar Nicholson and his performance. So maybe that's why he's had a slow start.
Yeah, hopefully he can pick it up, and initially, I had when I heard about this move, there were a few other places where I would have liked Shaman Nicholson to go. Russia wasn't my number one spot for him. Obviously, that doesn't matter to Shaman Nicholson. But he started well. He continued the form that he had in Belgium over there in Russia for that back end of the season. But this season, as I say, the off-field issues, we didn't see that affect him last season. But you never know when certain things are going to pop up for you. This is a big year for Jamaica and our national team. And obviously, we want to see our players, more importantly, our strikers, on form and scoring goals. Do you think this domestic form will affect Shamar Nicholson's play in the national team? I'm not. I don't even think it's going to threaten his call up because Shamar Nicholson will get called up once he's fit. But will this affect his play for the national team?
Not necessarily, based on ratios and intricate statistics. Shamar Nicholson is one of, if not the most prolific Jamaican striker based on ratio and goals per game. In that regard, so he scores goals for Jamaica regardless of his circumstance, regardless of where he's located. So I don't think Shamar Nicholson will stop scoring goals for Jamaica. I think one thing is for certain is that Shamar Nicholson for Jamaica will contribute with goals on the score sheet. So I don't necessarily think his performance now in Russia will affect his performance in the yellow shirt, but I do honestly believe that it is important for him and his development and his growth for him to get back on form and start scoring goals against Russia.
Yeah, makes sense. I agree. And the last time we saw Shaman Nicholson for the national team, he was playing well. He and Liam Bailey started to form a good partnership that we like to see, and hopefully we can foster that and make it into something big in the future. He's just 25 years old, now about to enter his prime, and hopefully there are 1 or 2 more steps for him to take to be that player that we all imagine him to be. So, big shout out to Shaman Nicholson. Hopefully he can pick it up. Big ball, and we love to see it. Let's make a segue to the person that I mentioned a while ago, Leon Bailey. Having an up and down season in England so far. Struggled with injuries since his transfer, but this season getting some sort of consistency in terms of playing time. But his performances have been up and down. How do you feel about Leon Bailey and his time in Aston Villa, in the Aston Villa shirt this year?
Well, under Unai Emery, it's obvious that Liam Bailey is somebody that he has confidence in and that he'll continue to push forward. And it's as though Liam Bailey now is the starting striker slash right winger for Aston Villa, and I think that's like pinned down and nailed down. And I think that was never the case before. So I think this new coach sees his potential, sees the talent that he has in him, and constantly puts him out on the field. And he's been playing a lot of 90 minutes, if you realize. Like Liam Bailey's been starting and finishing a lot of games that we haven't seen until this point. I think that shows that he is doing well in training for Unai Emery to see it and to like what he's doing. On the field, I think Aston Villa is not the best of teams, and as such, sometimes Liam Bailey doesn't necessarily get the service, based on the consistency of his team, based on the consistency of the players behind him. Some players who you'd expect to be showing up and to be servicing him doesn't necessarily do their jobs. And with this new Aston Villa team, Liam Bailey plays very high. Liam Bailey sometimes plays very wide. Sometimes he plays very forward. So I think the main factor that contributes to his inconsistency is not necessarily his play, but the service that he's been getting or the quality of play by his team. But what we've seen is that when Leon Bailey gets on the ball, when Leon Bailey gets into good positions, Leon Bailey makes things happen. And you've seen that constantly. You've seen him have successful dribbles, you've seen him make key passes, and you've seen him score goals. And I think Leon Bailey is one of the key men for Aston Villa this season. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's an up and down season for the baller per se. I'd just say he's put in a situation where he's playing a very forward role for a very average to subpar team in the Premier League. And I think that's his vice right now, not necessarily the way he's playing.
Yeah, I think this is the first time Liam Bailey can really say that he is a starter in the Premier League. You know, obviously last year he struggled with injuries. As I said earlier this season, Gerrard didn't know what he wanted to do. He sold all of his wingers, barring two, Jalen Ramsey and Liam Bailey, and he was chopping and changing, not knowing where to play them out of position, playing three at the back sometime, and Liam Bailey playing. We saw so many variations under Steven Gerrard. But under Unai Emery, he is a starter, and I expected that coming into this because from every time at Arsenal, I knew that he likes to play a wing-dominated system. He likes to change. He gives his forward players a lot of freedom, and I knew that Liam Bailey would thrive on that. And in the last 4 or 5 games, probably 6, Liam Bailey has been, his performances have been 7 out of 10. The one thing that he's been lacking is goals. And even that game, 2 games ago, where he missed the game-winning shot for Aston Villa, he cried. And even in that game, it was a really good game. He was playing so well. He was creating so many things for Aston Villa, but that end product was just not there. And I feel like that's where he's kind of letting down himself, because I'm expecting more from Liam Bailey. I know that Liam Bailey can find that back of the net, and he's just not proving to be as clinical as I expect him to be. But overall, and his performances, I am so impressed with what he's doing so far in the last 6 games since this Emery takeover. Hopefully, Liam Bailey can continue this one and continue to start scoring goals, because one of his main attributes is that he's a goal scorer. He's a wide player, but he's a goal scorer. He knows how to create and he knows how to score goals. So if he's not scoring goals, then questions are going to be asked about him. And well taken goal, by the way. Well taken goal in the last game. And hopefully we can see more of this from Liam Bailey. Do we expect, under Coach Hallgrimson, Liam Bailey to be the man, or will he be just another player in the system?
If Coach Hallgrimson has anything about him, any wits about him, any smarts about him, it's an easy, clear as day that Liam Bailey should be the centerpiece of this team. And based on everything that we've seen or heard from Hallgrimson, he seems like a competent individual. However, when we saw them play against Argentina, Liam Bailey wasn't necessarily the center point or the focal point of the attack, but we did see Jamaica trying to channel passes to Liam Bailey out wide. Argentina is not necessarily a team that we can use to heavily judge how Jamaica is going to look going forward, because Argentina is, without a doubt, the best team in the world right now. Can I say that safely? So we played against the best team in the world, and I did see them attempting to channel the ball to Liam Bailey. But I can't say definitively what Hallgrimson will do, but I think if he has any wits about him, he will make Liam Bailey the focal point and the centerpiece of this offense, because Liam Bailey is without a doubt the best reggae boy, the best Jamaican striker, or not necessarily striker, but attacking player in the whole entire world right now. I think we can say that definitively. In fact, I think Hallgrimson should give him the captain number.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that idea. I'd like it. Liam Bailey is clearly, the best Jamaican footballer at the moment. And we would be dumb to not take advantage of that. Especially, playing in the Premier League, playing week in, week out, scoring goals, and being on the tip of the Aston Villa supporters' tongues. So if Jamaica, the training staff and the head coach is smart, as you said, Liam Bailey needs to be the man for Jamaica. Obviously, it's not good to put all the burden of a national team on one player. I'm not going to excuse Liam Bailey from this. Liam Bailey also needs to step up. Because for Jamaica, he has been inconsistent, and I feel like I've been lenient by saying that.
Yeah, he's been up and down. But recently, especially under Paul Hall, we saw a renaissance from Liam Bailey. We saw an emergence from him where he started to get on the ball more. He started to come more essential. He started to pick up play, and he started to dominate the football game more. And I think that was deliberate because of Paul Hall. And we definitely saw it begin to work. We definitely saw that Liam Bailey started to make a name for himself, started to score some goals for the country, started to create some plays, started to look like the top baller in the team. So I think if we can continue along that road, I think Hallgrimson is very self-aware. He's very aware of the circumstances, and he's a coach with a wide network. He's clearly watching a lot of football. So I think if there's one thing that he will inherit from Paul Hall, I think that's definitely the thing that he will inherit. Leon Bailey has to be the linchpin of this offense from the right wing.
Yeah, and this would not be keeping up with the Reggae Boys if we didn't speak about, the big news and the big man right now in Jamaican football, which is Coach Hallgrimson. He's here, he's on the ground. He had a 2-day training camp with I think 32 players 32 local players. And coming out of that camp, we saw some interviews where he spoke to the media. Talking about what was the intention for the camp. Did you hear any of these interviews and what did you like, from what he said? Or dislike?
No, I don't think he said anything to be disliked at this current moment. I think so far Hallgrimson has done everything right. He's ordered his steps very, very, very meticulously, in my opinion. He's also spoken, badly of himself, spoken critically of himself, saying that he must first, learn the culture, learn the system, learn the society. And we've seen him, in and around the people. You get me? So we've seen him not in the presidential box at Tony Spalding complex, but amongst the fans, inculcating himself with the tradition, with the culture. We see him in the training session in his shorts, up and down, removing sticks and cones, and very articulate with his players, almost resembling the likes of an Arteta or an Alex Ferguson is there, where you just see him there being the center of attention, actually coaching, actually going around. As compared to the previous coaches who weren't necessarily as active, especially one of his caliber. So he's basically, I like his humility. I like the fact that he's here as a coach and is willing to learn and knows that learning about the sport in the country and learning about the country itself is imperative to the country's success. And I think Hallgrimson has done everything. He's shown, and he's the first coach in a while that has shown that being national head coach is a full-time job. And I think
you can't be in England.
I think Hallgrimson definitely looks at even Theodore Whitmore was in Jamaica, and it still didn't seem like it was a full-time job for Theodore Whitmore. Like what do we know that Whitmore did outside of FIFA dates?
Can't say.
Absolutely nothing. And then Paul Hall was literally employed by another footballing organization. But Hallgrimson is here demonstrating that this being a national team head coach is for sure, for 100% certain, a full-time job. And he's taken up the full mantle, and I'm just so happy and impressed to see it. Seeing him at the camp coaching, seeing him there on a non-FIFA date, showing appreciation to the clubs for releasing their players, so on and so forth. This man has taken every step in the right direction, and I'm so excited to see the final product. You don't even know.
Yeah. He's been saying all of the right things. And obviously it's too early to judge him. We need to see some matches. We need to see some results go the right way. But first of all, I agree with everything that you said a while ago. So I'm going to go another place with it. I feel like Hallgrimson this is a very important time for the national setup right now and Coach Hallgrimson. I feel like he has the opportunity to do something special.
Oh, yeah.
Because the fans are not on the Reggae Boy side right now. And I feel like him, being relatable, him being humble, him being at those matches, and the people can see him, the people can touch him, the people can have conversations with him. I feel like that can build up a culture around the Reggae Boys at the moment.
And one thing about we as Jamaicans, it might be laughable, but the powerful man or the white man who brings himself into the society, they galvanize us easier than our own. Unfortunately, you saw where Rene Simões took a similar approach. Rene Simões was amongst the people in 1998 for that campaign. Rene Simões ingratiated himself with the society, with the community. The people loved Rene Simões as much as they loved the players on the field during that time. And that definitely helped with culture. So if Hallgrimson is there shaking hands and taking pictures with little girls and little boys and, being around the football space in Jamaica, being around the Jamaican culture, if Hallgrimson is seen wearing Bob Marley t-shirts and listening to reggae music, I think that will definitely serve as an attraction, I want when the people to say, we have Mario Paz, a loud roar, Shamar Nicholson, an even louder roar, Andre Blake, a loud roar, Rafael Morrison, a loud roar, and Leon Bailey, the loudest roar. And then their head coach, Hallgrimson, a louder roar as well. That's the type of thing that I think is great in football culture. And Pep Guardiola said something, and I can't tell if he was joking or if he was serious. It could be sarcastic, but or it could not be. It was like he told Haaland that Haaland needs to stop scoring so many goals. Like, yes, score enough goals so we can win the Premier League, but don't score 50 because then you're going to make it all about you. Pep Guardiola said that was his biggest struggle at Barcelona, the fact that it was all about Messi and not him. Like since Barcelona, think about it, Pep Guardiola has been the biggest star on every single
Yeah,
team.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, and Bayern Munich and Manchester City, there's no star, there's no ego that has been bigger than Pep Guardiola since Lionel Messi. So he's telling Haaland, hey, slow it down. The person who asked the question was like, are you being sarcastic? He's like, no, I'm serious. And he has laughed all now. So we're left to wonder if he's being sarcastic or if he was being serious. But the fact that Pep Guardiola in himself is a personality, somebody that people go to watch, somebody that people go to see, somebody that people love. I think Hallgrimson building himself and ingratiate himself with the culture will only help market and sell Jamaican football to a different level for sure.
Yeah, and the opportunity that you speak of, I think he has it in his hands.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't fumble it, I think this can go well for the program. I think this can, help to fill out the national stadium again. When the people come to see what will Hallgrimson do, what will we get from him in the press conference, what will he say, who will we see him posing with, which beach will he be on,
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
things, is important in building a culture. And I
And
feel like
he-
Hallgrimson has that opportunity, and I
as
think
long as somebody
actually
do
I
it.
think he knows it.
As long as the work is there beside it. So if Hallgrimson is at the Jamaica 2-day camp that probably he initiated, and then after he leaves and goes to Lion Key and interacts with a few natives from Port Royal, after say him just done work for 6 hours doing the job that he's supposed to do, then he might take pictures of like that's going to be so good for the culture, because as long as we see him putting in the work, which, oh God, man, we have seen Hallgrimson put in the work. He's done something to this point that I haven't seen any other Jamaican coach do. He's traveled, he's seen, he's done interviews with players, he's tried to recruit. He's there every day working as though it's a full-time job. As long as he has the work to consolidate this attitude, he'll
Yeah.
be a good. But I really feel a difference in the Jamaican culture. I really do feel a difference.
That's true, and a little bit more on Hallgrimson. And obviously the starlet right now, Dujan Richards. After his final training session, he was questioned by the media, and he said a couple things. He described Whisper as an exciting talent. Looking forward to seeing more from him. Admitting that he didn't see a lot of his games, but saw clips and saw highlights of the games. And he said that he is exciting, but one thing he wants to see, and it's good that it's coming from a national coach, because if we say that, people are gonna take off with it, or if anybody said that right now, people are gonna get angry. He said that he wants to see him against seniors. He wanted to see him against seniors and see how he performs. Not saying that he can't perform against them, which is a different thing. Just saying that he is intrigued to see him play against them, because. And he said one thing I was reading the transcript, I was reading the interview. He said, top talents around the world are not playing high school football. He said that. And I want people to know that. Obviously, Whisper is a top talent, and we know that if Whisper was playing in the JPL, he would have stood out. And I don't think Whisper will be here at 19 years old. And none of that. We can go on and on and on. But it's important that the coach understands what is going on and doesn't prop him up too fast. Knowing that there are stages and there are things to do before you are the finished article. And I want people to understand that Whisper is not yet, he's not done. This is not the player that he will be for the rest of his life. So, what do you think about the coach's remarks on Whisper? Him being an exciting talent and him wanting to see him against senior players.
I don't think much of the coach's remarks. He said exactly what he was supposed to say. Was this preemptively or post-emptive? Was this before the ceremony, before the sessions, or was it after?
After.
It was after the sessions. Well, I think the fact that he said that's a bit telling. I was hoping that after the sessions you'd have been like, this player's out of the world, and he absolutely stood out. I'm wondering if in fact Whisper did stand out at this training session, or he just fit in. I spoke to his father, I think it was last night, and he said that Whisper had a good session. He scored a few goals, he didn't lose the ball or whatever. But from what I'm hearing, he didn't absolutely stand out, and he didn't absolutely destroy the camp of locals, which was what I was in a sense hoping for. The coach obviously sees and understands that he's a prospect, but it doesn't take a sighted man to see that. Even a blind man could know that Whisper is a top prospect. But I would have loved to hear that he scored 7 goals, and he was a revelation. So
And also, probably that's not what the coach was looking for. I was on a live with Whisper a couple days ago, and I asked him about the training session. What was the coach doing? What was the emphasis being placed on? And he just said that it was fundamentals and getting to know the players. So he just wanted to know who he's dealing with, what are they strong at, passing the ball fast, kicking the ball into the goal, accuracy, fundamentals are what he was focusing on. So probably he didn't even have the opportunity to run through the camp and be the man of the camp. It was more so getting to know everybody, getting to know who these players are. Oh, you are the new kid from high school? Let me see if you can pass the ball, or let me see if your fundamentals are sound, whatever. So, obviously, he's going to see more of him. He even hinted at the fact that he wanted to have more camps. So that is something good, man. And I know you'll be excited about that because him taking the job as a full-time job and having camps, let's say 2 or 3 times for the month. So we love to hear that.
Yeah, as I said, and I always use England as the reference point because I think they're the best run FA in the whole entire world. And I don't think it's a stretch to make that assertion. I think it's clear that the English FA are the best run FA in the whole entire world. And this is the type of things that we see them doing. We see them getting their under 17s and their under 15s year round. We see them having under 20 camps. We see the reason why they probably can't do this, what we did with seniors, is because everybody who is a senior for them is playing in the Premier League or at least the Championship. So we can't necessarily see weekly camps like this because the players that would be in Southgate system would be training for the weekend, right? For an important Manchester derby on the weekend. So we don't necessarily see this in the English setup, but what we do see is like the 17s and the 15s, and sometimes the 19s would come in like twice a month and continue playing with each other and get themselves acquainted, so on and so forth. And we see in every FIFA day where they call the under 21s. And the under 21s is not a hard and fast under 21. Sometimes there are 22-year-olds that play because it's an unofficial friendly in FIFA. But we see where England do stuff like that. We see where Gareth Southgate is constantly working. Gareth Southgate will travel all over the world to see English players and potential English players. And I think this model is being adapted well by Jamaica. Gareth Southgate coaching England is a full-time job for him. And that's what it's supposed to be as a national coach.
Yeah, and finally, an interesting perspective. Do you think these local players have an advantage to make it into the national setup, being that they have an extra eye on them from the coach? Probably the players playing in Slovakia or playing in the USL or playing in Vietnam, they don't quite have the opportunity to come to a camp. Even though they would be better or ahead of the players in the JPL, but these players get called up. So if the coach need a 1 or 2 player, now go to Vietnam for Jeremy Lynch. He might go Mount Peasant for Bygrave, if you get what I say.
So you're saying.
By the way, Bygrave is back in the JPL.
Yeah. So you're saying do the players who play in the JPL have an advantage over players who play in obscure location? Because if you're playing the MLS or if you're playing in Europe, I don't think local players have any advantage on you at all. But maybe playing in Vietnam, and I hope that that's not the case.
I would hope so. It should be. It should be, but it's a perspective.
It may well be the case. I hope that that's not the case because I still genuinely believe that all the football that's played internationally is at a higher level than Jamaica. So the Vietnams and the Indias and the Mexicos and the Costa Ricas, so on and so forth, all of where we do have Jamaicans right now, and in the USL, definitely at a higher level than what we see in the Jamaica Premier League. Though the Jamaica Premier League is growing, so I hope that that's not the case, but it may well be. I'm going to trust Hallgrimson.
All right, good conversation. People, talk to us. Tell us, what do you think about Leon Bailey and Whisper and Coach Hallgrimson? One more thing before I leave. It's keeping up with the reggae, but we have to talk about the reggae girls. They have their tournament coming up. I think it's in February, the early part of February, for the preparation for the World Cup. How do you feel about this, and how do you expect the girls to perform after their, I'd say, subpar performances in the Paraguay friendlies?
Apparently they're in camp. Or they're apparently going to be in camp. I think they'll get a good chance to develop some camaraderie and get some cohesiveness. And the competition will be better than the competition they faced in the recent friendlies, so they'll definitely have to step their game up. They'll definitely have to approach this game with more sincerity and more seriousness in order to get results out of these games. So I definitely believe that it's a good stepping stone for them, but we can't just chalk up the last 2 games to unfamiliarity, new players. We're missing some of our standout players, and and it was meaningless friendly after all. So I definitely don't put too much weight on the friendlies against Paraguay.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can step it up after our camp going forward for sure.
All right, so on some facts, the tournament is February 16, and the other three teams in the tournament it's Spain, Czech
Yeah,
Republic, and Australia.
yeah.
Some solid friendlies and good preparation for the World Cup. So I hope the girls can do well, and we want to see the girls in the World Cup, starring it up and as I said, doing well. So we will be cheering them on. People, this is keeping
So,
up with the.
before you had another point. So before we move on from keeping up with reggae boys, I'm gonna see I try to close up my favorite segment, and I do appreciate that. This segment is my favorite segment.
We have other topics to talk
Why?
about. Carry on.
Yeah. The under 17s, times are getting serious. Things are getting dicey, and it's ramp up time. It's almost February. It's almost time for the under 17 competition. Obviously, we would have done a video about the under 17s and the selections of a few players and the omissions of a few players, and would have come under some heat because of that. Because I made some statements, saying that if you get the chance to play for Jamaica, you play for Jamaica, right? And you were saying, what were you saying? What were your points on that?
I was saying we have to get some more context because if it's a case where they feel like they are being sabotaged or they wouldn't get game time or whatever, and right now it would be they would be better served playing, in England to get their faces out there or whatever. Then go and do that and don't have a problem with it. While I also understand your point.
Yeah, and the question that I was asking is, if you believe that if you are called up to your team, and you know that you won't get game time, if you're called to the national team, that's a reason to not go.
Yeah, ask me what me to do.
No,
I
I'm
ask you
asking.
to understand.
No, I'm asking if it's appropriate. So, for example, I was one of 3 goalkeepers in the under 20 pool, and I was not a keeper.
Under 17.
Yeah, in the under 17 pool, or whatever, whichever age.
No man, the higher I get, the more unforgiving I am. So,
So,
seeing a team, me not care. Play
no,
or not, you have to go.
yeah, but in the under 17, like once there's a World Cup to it, like it's serious. There's no under 15 World Cup. There's no under
Hey,
14.
I understand what you're saying, but may I say, if the man them in the thing and the rumors coming out is that they're getting sabotaged or people have it out for them or whatever, and them believe say only forgot England, then go on.
Apparently, they might play him out of position.
Listen,
But you're in a national team. Dybala will never get to play in his
you play.
position for Argentina.
I agree, bro. You do whatever role that is given to you. Play. But may I say, if there's some other context to it, that I don't know, which is why I'm now hold a hard and fast position on this. I don't know what is going on. Me hear the man must say them get sabotage or I think them get played out of position. If it is that man shout off for your ear, man make certain remarks or whatever, and you believe that you get sabotaged, and you need to go Europe, go on, brother. You get me? I say fine, which I don't know. But if it is just a thing where you're being played out of position and you don't like it, big man, at this point, I don't know if you're gonna make it as a pro G. Like if that's why. You understand? So I understand both sides of the fence and I'd love to get some more context around it. Because what I understand is that Dante Peralta was cut, Denzel Washington wasn't cut.
Yeah.
Right? So again, we need to get a little more context, but most of the times I'm going to be on your side. I get called, if you're a forward and the man them call you and say go play in Angola, go on here at the country this year, I represent 3 million people. In fact, I represent around 10. You go and you do it.
Or more than that, because I have to think about the wives of the people them too.
Exactly.
Yeah. So more than that.
Well, just context we need.
Had I been called up and me go, even if I know some better than the first goalkeeper, but them I got me as second goalkeeper, you think I'm gonna go?
Yeah.
I go same way, man. If I get my time, come and just get my time and go shine. But at the end of the day, that a national shirt to me, I've just a senior call up on my resume.
So right now, also, if you didn't get because apart, it's not a training camp yet. I guess it's trials. Yeah, I guess the 50-man squad was trials, and you're
all right. So I was listening to Wendell Dawson. Okay, not Wendell Dawson, Miran Gordon, and apparently the remainder of this squad now is a professional squad. The reason why they have a bit of excess is because there are some players that have not been introduced yet. The likes of Che Gardner, who he's supposed to come play for the country. Other players in America and Europe that they're still working on visa situations. So that's why they haven't trimmed the squad to the final 20 because they don't know if these people are going to be included. Some people who are in camp are still not eligible to play for the country yet. So while they're in camp, they're still working on becoming eligible to play for the nation and get passports and documents sorted out. So for example, if I keep an excess of 8, that means that the few that might be ineligible, if when a time for go play a match, them not ineligible, we wouldn't have to recall nobody else. You get me I said? So they're saying that this isn't necessarily still a trials. Yeah, they have to submit 20 by I think February 1st. So Marion Gordon is saying that on February 1st he will be submitting his team. So as far as he's concerned, this is his squad that he's rolling with.
Yeah, this is, if that's the case, this is the squad.
Yeah, exactly. This is a squad, but not everybody will get to go. You know, them just have a few additional as provisional, just in case some people are in the squad, they'll end up get to go. You get me? And say, or they might be injured and so on and so forth. And I think that's a very good idea. So he said, so they're like, when is going to be the next cut, coach? Because I've been hearing rumors that more cuts are going to happen and this time. He's like, when is going to be the next cut? And he's like, the final team is due to be submitted on February 1st, and he will submit 20 players on February 1st.
Yeah.
But until then, this is his team. So it's a situation like that where anybody who had made it to this point would have been basically a part of the squad, you know, barring the fact that they got their inclusions and so on and so forth. So this is not necessarily still a tryout, this is their squad. But it's just like a big squad and then you're going to have, unfortunately, only 20 can travel. But this is the squad, you know, so, you know, I would hate to think that because of being played out of position.
You know the perspective though. As I was saying, when the initial around 50 was called, right?
Yeah.
If you didn't get a shot at your right position, like if from jump you're a cam and you're being played at left midfielder or left wing, or you're I feel like the left back right back situation is not even that big of a deal. You're supposed to know what to do, right? Even though maybe on the other side it might be a bit unorthodox, you might look away, but whatever, you should know what to do.
To be honest, left back and right back are so different, and the reason why it doesn't seem that different in the professional is because obviously they're all professional footballers use both feet better than we use any single one of our feet. In addition to the fact that
and this player uses right foot, but Dante Peralta is a right footer.
Yeah.
No, that one, me not really argue that one. If I am Denzel Washington McKenzie and I know how good I am, and when I get a shot at camp at all in these trials, at the 50-man trial before, kinda, I look on this bridging. So as I come and left midfield me I play, or left wing me I play, so when I get a shot at, you see me? Kinda weird. So, as I say, a lot more context to it and a lot more things to know, but me definitely left on your side. Until you get cut, you don't remove yourself. You go and you play, represent the country. You see? Straight.
But yeah, we don't have no more for talk about. I don't love talk about reggae boys still.
No man, what heap of things I have to talk about, but more shows did it too. See, we're gone 30 minutes and just one segment. Oh God, man. People, the next segment
of darkness. The next segment of darkness still.
People, stay tuned to see the darkness.
No man,
Student talk on the return.
Yeah.